huge structures discovered over 1.5 miles below the Great Pyramid. Yeah, this is more of that very story that we started out with tonight. Jay Anderson, open search intelligence researcher and founder of Project Unity, said this changes everything. A new device with 3D tomographic imagery was used to explore the internal structure and subsurface of the Great Pyramid of Giza. 8 vertical cylindrical structures extended 648 meters below the pyramid. The cylinders have spiral pathways and may be wells. The 2 bases under the cylinders, massive cubic blocks, extend down a staggering 2 kilometers, which is 1.6 miles. The sophisticated engineering of these structures obliterates the dynastic Egyptian model, which means the Egyptians couldn't have built it, right? Anderson said that the Egyptian civilization narrative that we have been taught is impossible. The structures cover the entire Giza plateau with interconnected structures, not only underneath the Great Pyramid, but also those of the Khafra and Menkaure. He said it provides evidence of a pre-flood civilization that we can scarcely comprehend. Yeah, and I would fully concur with that the world prior to Adam and Eve was a very interesting one, apparently, because there were 2 floods. There was the flood of Noah, but there was a flood before that as well. And apparently that had wiped out a civilization that was non-human, possibly angelic. That's what many people think. And it would have taken beings like that to build something like this so far down into the earth. And I'm a pretty big proponent of the hollow earth idea. And I know many of you guys out there are flat earthers. I personally think, this is my opinion, I have no way to prove it, but I think that the flat earth narrative is there to cover up the true story, which is hollow earth. Because to me, hollow earth is far more important than flat earth, if it makes sense. Kathy says, pyramids built with fallen angel technology. Yep, and Nephilim giant labor. Yes, that's right. The structures that were built there, the various beings that were able to do that sort of construction is the only real explanation, in my opinion. And it does fit the biblical narrative. It's something Tim Alberino has been talking about for a long, long time. I fully expect that he will put out probably quite a bit of information as well about this whole thing with Egypt and the pyramids and what's been found discovered under the Great Pyramid there. So I think it would be something to keep an eye on for sure. I think it further proves the biblical narrative. I think it further proves that there were civilizations for sure before humanity, before Adam and Eve were even around, and that this would help to prove that point. So True Nature says, that's crazy, Doug. 1.6 miles is taller than the tallest building in the world. Yeah, that's right, it is. Taller than the, whatever it is, the tall building in UAE, right? In United Arab Emirates, taller than that building. So that's saying quite a bit. That's pretty amazing. And, I've mentioned the Bosnian pyramids before as well. We're going to take a look at that just a little bit. I'll show you a picture or two. So there were pyramids all over the place, all over the globe, and of course they're on ley lines, which are, natural power sources, and that's all important as well. So were pyramids somehow used as weapons? I don't know. Were they somehow used in conjunction with the same pyramids that were found on Mars? Very possible. Maybe there's some sort of interconnection between the two. And in fact, I've heard that there are connections between the pyramids on Mars and the pyramids on Earth. So it's pretty amazing. I've seen I've never seen pyramids, in person, but I have seen some of the incredible structures in Peru. I did a trip to Peru back in 2017, and we were able to see not only at Machu Picchu, but Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo and several other places there that have just these incredible structures that when you see them and you're there and you can touch them with your hands, you're just in awe. And you realize that there's no way, even with the technology and the machinery that we have today, that we could even build anything like that. So there's just no other explanation to me other than supernatural. To me, that is the explanation. So anyway, again, we'll look at this a little bit closer as we move on tonight. It's got a couple other articles pulled up on that. So I'm not going to play this because it's kind of long, but this is more that has to do with the pyramids. We talked about opening the show tonight. Groundbreaking findings on the Giza Pyramid Complex could rewrite human history. Now, this video was the one that kind of got everybody talking about this, as far as I know. This particular video on X has 9.5 million views. So I think a lot of people were really interested in this whole thing with the Giza Pyramid, all of the findings underneath it. So there's quite a bit here. There's a guy named Jay Anderson on X, and he was actually on several other shows as well, being interviewed about all of this. So I don't know if he's the resident expert on this whole thing now or what, but he seems to be the person that most people are talking to and talking about with regards to Giza. So there's that, and then there's a couple of Daily Mail articles too. Scientists say they've discovered vast city underneath Egypt's Giza pyramids, but experts raise concerns. So some people are not too sure. Anyway, this is more pictures and more information on this Daily Mail article. And then here's a secondary one that says the War of the Pyramids, row over what really lies beneath Egypt's Giza monuments, explodes after a secret city investigation. So personally, I think that there really is something under there that would make a lot of sense. And, kind of like the Catholic Church, when something ancient was known to be underground, the Catholic Church would swoop in and build a church on top of it so that it had full control over that property. Perhaps that's what happened here. We don't know. I mean, maybe this was an existing structure and, the pyramid was there and the Egyptians just moved in and took over. Didn't have anything to do with any of it. Don't know. But so this got me thinking about and remembering about the Bosnian pyramid because it's talking about the War of the Pyramids. So that's where I came up with that. I had to look it up again because I'd forgotten what the archaeologist's name was. We had him on Lost Search Radio 2 or 3 different times. Really nice guy. Dr. Osman Nagic is how you say it. Bosnian archaeologist. And if you've never heard of or seen the Bosnian pyramid, I think it's fascinating. This is it. It's completely covered with grass and dirt and trees. So if you're down at the base of it or down looking, down at that level, the ground level, you wouldn't necessarily even see that it's anything other than a mountain, but you can clearly see from the sky here, from this aerial photo, that it is definitely a pyramid. And Dr. Sam, who has been a guest on Lost Search Radio a few times, and we've talked to him at length, explains the whole thing, and he was the discoverer of the Bosnian pyramid of this. He was the guy that put it all together because he was by nature a archaeologist. So it's a really fascinating subject, and yes, there are pyramids all over the place, not just in Egypt. That's the ones that you always hear about, but there are others. There's some in Mexico and South America in general and all over the place. But these Bosnian ones I think are really interesting, and he had a lot to say about some of the discoveries that they've found in the pyramid in Bosnia. It's called the Pyramid of the Sun. Pyramid of the Sun is the name of it. This one. That's the big one, but there are some others, I guess, in that area too. Anyway, I just find it's a really fascinating and interesting thing to look at. So yeah, Bosnian pyramid, if you didn't know about that. And I will try and link to, I didn't pull any of the Lost Arts Radio shows up tonight, but I will try and remember and make myself a mental note here and put a couple of links to those interviews with Dr. Sam, this guy right here. Let's see if, let me go to this article and see if it's got a better picture of him. Yeah, that's him. Dr. Sam Osman Nagic claims that 12,000 years ago, early Europeans built the greatest pyramidal complex on Earth in Bosnia. This article is dated December 2009. So you can see that this is a long story. Goes way back. And again, he's the discoverer of the one in Bosnia, at least, the big one. And I think a really interesting article. So we'll link to those interviews that we did in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday. So make sure you're on that list if you're not already, and totally free. And that you'll get all the links to the articles that I mentioned tonight. All those links. It takes a long time for me to go through and copy and paste, but I do it every time because I love you guys. And I know you love links.